Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. And as Jessica said, I moved to the US 5 months ago and started my postdoc fellow at the College of Education, working with Professor Weintraub on developing a curricula in data science. But today I'm not going to talk about my work here, but I want you to tell you about my previous work as a PhD student back in Israel. I hold a PhD in science education from Tel Aviv University and a master in media technology from Linnaeus University. So quite a long journey in many cool places around the world. I was a 9 years lecturer at the Faculty of Instructional Technology in the Holon Institute of Technology in Israel. And I'm still a graphic designer and instructional designer and very passionate about research and teaching and learning new stuff every day. So today we will talk about computational thinking and creativity. And I will give you an overview of these two concepts, and we'll talk if they are related to each other and how. This is part of my doctoral studies. It's only a part of it. It was big. We need more time to talk about my whole research. But if anyone is interested, we can grab a coffee and talk more about it. So do they go together, creativity and computational thinking? So for those of you who can't wait until the end, spoiler alert, the answer is absolutely yes. And we will talk about how and when, but you need to stay for that. And you have pizza, so it's great. Okay, so computational thinking, for those who not really familiar with the term, it has been recognized as one of the most essential skills for the 21st century, which young kids and adults should acquire. It's crucially important to human development because it relates to problem solving, which is very important in this era. So computational thinking is a conceptual foundation required to define and solve real-world problems. And how we do it? We do it using different algorithmic methods and techniques to reach transferable solutions that are necessary for diverse and various contexts and disciplines. Computational thinking helps to promote technological and computational literacy, to train students for future development and professions, and prepare them for the changing landscape we are all experiencing. But since computational thinking is relatively ill-defined and complex construct, there are various methods and various dimensions to define and also to assess them. And one of the most well-known framework for computational thinking was proposed by Brennan and Resnick, which are two folks from MIT who are behind the Scratch platform, which you're probably familiar with. And Brennan and Resnick proposed a framework according to which computational thinking includes 3 dimensions. The first one is concept. What do I mean by concept? Is a set of 7 computational concepts, including, for example, loops and conditional and events. These concepts are useful in programming. Okay, when we program, we use these basic concepts. The next dimension they proposed is practices. And practices are different thinking and learning processes that we encounter while we approaching different problems, not specifically computerized problem, but even if I need to, I have a tire in my, I have a hole in my car tire. So in the practices, we have different examples. For example, being incremental and iterative, using testing and debugging to solve problems, also to reusing and remixing. Okay, we can take a code or take a problem, a solution for different problem and reuse it and remix it and to adjust it to new settings. And the last practice they are talking about is abstracting the stuff, okay? Breaking things and recognize patterns in problems and then modularizing them. And the last dimension in their framework is the perspective, which talk about the different perspective that students hold while trying to solve different problems. Expressing idea, asking a different question. Okay, it's how we elaborate, and it's more focusing on the mental and metadata that we are doing while solving the problems. And usually when trying to assess, okay, and actually to measure computational thinking skills for the students or adults or whatever, usually it's commonly measured, the measurements are based on different achievement, okay? That is a unidimensional summative way, okay? So for example, in class, usually they bring different tests and that measure if students have acquired these skills. But these traditional measurements neglect to consider a very important component of the learning process. And we need, when we assess such an important skills, we want to get a more formative assessment. Because computational thinking is not a binary state. It's not either you have it or not, okay? So we can, so it's critical to analyze students' trajectory along the learning process and see if it exists or not. And one of the methods to assess computational thinking, which we used in my study during my Ph.D., called learning analytics. Have someone have heard the term learning analytics? Okay, perfect. So learning analytics methods provide different layers of information, and I will talk about later, and when I will describe the data analysis that we did. Learning analytics provide us more layer of the acquisition process, okay? We have more information about the learning process, and we can measure different things using these methods a long time. It's not just a final exam, okay? We can see by using, for example, log files from different learning platform, we can see how learning is developed and how students acquire different skills. And basically, that's what we did here. But I told you that we are going to talk about two concepts and construct today. So the other one is creativity. And creativity is a thinking ability that enables us to be innovative and to solve problems and produce different original and valuable products. And creativity also was found and is now considered as one of the most important skills that all of us should acquire. And it previously was found to contribute to academic achievement and acquisition of new knowledge. And we use creativity all the time. Okay, during the pandemic, many people needed to invent new things and to think differently. And we were asking ourselves if these two constructs are so important, and the literature is talking about them separately and discuss their importance, we wonder if we can combine them and if there are different relationships between these two constructs. So today, there is ongoing understanding that creativity and computational thinking have some relations, okay? And we understand that computational thinking is not affiliated only with computer science and computers, okay? You can apply different methods, for example, to change a tire in your car. You need to have these skills and mental ideas to do so, and to be also creative. And creativity is not solely affiliated with arts, okay? We can see that people use it now in this AI revolution. We can see how people use creativity all the time to produce songs, to produce articles, to do so many things differently than they did it before. And creativity is overlap with different fundamentals of computer science and computational thinking, the abstraction of stuff, visualizing everything, so methods for being creative and things that which are you're probably more familiar with are occurring also when we're practicing computational thinking. So since computational thinking and creativity were barely studied together so far, we're quite pioneering in these topics. The goal of my research, as I mentioned, was to better understand the association between these two constructs. And we try to examine and see how we can promote them using different learning analytics methods, which helped us to measure this construct, and how to apply these skills using different game-based platform. During my research, we focused on two. Today, I'm going to talk about one specific environment that we used. So the research question that we had, once again, we had more because this is a larger and more expanded research, but the main research questions that are important for today's talk were what are the association between acquisition of computational thinking concept. Okay, note that we took Brennan and Resnick framework, but we focused only on the concept of their framework and how it's how the association with computational thinking and creativity. And also we wanted to see if creativity can be predicted by acquisition of computational thinking concept and vice versa. Okay, so to do so, we created to study with specific intervention to measure those. So as I mentioned, to do this research, we were focusing on game-based learning platform. The one I will talk today about is named Codeto. It was created by great colleagues and friends from University of Deusto in Spain. And basically, Codeto is a block-based learning environment for teaching basic programming and promoting computational thinking skills. And within this platform, you can create, even you, all of you, it's a free platform, can create different challenges and levels. As you can see here on the screen, so we have, it's a little bit small, but we have a little astronaut that needs to go to this marker. And to do so, we just drag and drop different blocks, coding blocks that will guide the astronaut to get to the right position. And we chose this platform because it's really easy, and the people from Deusto University were really nice, and we got the entire log files of this system. So in Codeto, every movement the students do within the environment is logged in their files. Okay, so if I'm just picking one box and move it to the canvas, it is registered under the log files. And when I click run, the program is checked automatically, and we can see if the students was correct or not, and exactly what he did to get to this solution. So basically, that was the reason why we chose this platform. And the last reason was that we were able to design our own levels within the game. So for each study I will talk about, we designed different levels within the system. We had three main research variables in which guide us. One was computational thinking, and we measure computational thinking by four construct. We measured the solution attempts. Okay, how many attempts students needed to get the astronaut to the correct place. The other one was completion time. Okay, how much time it took the students to solve each level we get, each challenge or level we gave them, and concept utilization. Okay, so if we're getting back to the Brennan and Resnick framework, we said that we have 7 concepts. So we actually measured if a student applied the specific computational concept that we were aiming to. Okay, so for example, if I just go back for a second, to solve this challenge, the students can use different methods, but for example, I wanted them to use a loop, okay, and or condition. For example, it's a bit small, but over here they have an if condition. So if the students did not use the if condition, but also were able to get to the marker, we consider this solution, but in terms of the utilization of the concept, it was not. Okay, because he did not use the specific concept that we were aiming to. But we did consider it as a correct solution and did all the manipulation and the analysis in regards. The second variables that we had is creative thinking. And we were based on the TTCT test, is Torrance test for creative thinking, which measure creative thinking by 4 measures: fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration, which I will talk about in a few minutes. And the last one was computational creativity. So we wanted to see if students are creative, not only by doing a pen and paper exam, but also to see if their codes, that if their solution for the challenges that we gave them are creative or not. And to do so, we measured the frequency of each particular solution students submitted among all the correct solutions that all the participants submitted. So we were able to see how the frequency and the originality of the students, and also we encounter the number and type of correct solution, which are measure of fluency, are parallel to fluency and flexibility. And we had 2 studies for this part. At the beginning, the first study, we tried to see the influence of computational thinking on creativity. We did this research with our colleagues back in Spain. It occurred in the University of Deusto, and 174 students aged 11 to 12 participated in this study. We divided them into 3 groups. So one was control group, and the second 2 were experimental group. What we did. At the beginning, students arrived to the university and we gave them a TTCT, which is this form, okay? Then we asked them to fill a background questionnaire, and afterwards we gave them the challenges that we created in the Codeta platform. And we asked them just to solve them. Afterward, when we finished, we gave them another computational thinking, we gave them another TTCT test, not this one, another one. The second experimental group was quite similar. The only exceptional term was that we were specifically asked the students to provide as many solutions they can for the challenges that we gave them. So when using Codeta, usually once you solve the problem correctly, you can just go on. So because the system does not encourage you to provide more solution to the same problem, we needed to encourage and manipulate the students to do so. So the creativity assessment. So what we did, as I mentioned, we used the Torrance test for creative thinking, which measure creativity by 4 metrics. And it was originated back in 1970 and was validated so many times. And because it used figural tests, we thought it would be compelling and very good for us because we are using block-based programming. So we wanted to choose some tests that would be aligned with the rest of our studies. So the Torrance test measure creative thinking by 4 measures. The first one is fluency. Okay, so we gave students this test and asked them, the instruction was, please draw as many drawings as possible in which the circle is a part of the drawing. Okay, and I brought you some. Try soon, later. So at the beginning, and we gave the students 10 minutes for that. Only 10 minutes. We don't have that much time. We had some difficulty with the technology here today, but you can try while I'm talking. So we asked them to provide as many drawings as possible, and the fluency part measure how many drawings they actually were able to create by 10 minutes. Okay, so give this try this test by yourself. The next one was flexibility, and to do so you have to compare your result, but I will let you know how to do so. So it's not enough that student, for example, you can see here, student created and don't copy. Okay, so student had pizza and a turtle and an air balloon and smiley and a cow and etc. Okay, so they had different drawings. To measure the flexibility, we wanted to see how many different drawings and categories they included in their test. So for example, we can see we have a cow and we have a turtle. Okay, both are animals, so we consider this as one category. And if the students created many emojis, which happened, it was the most frequent drawing in their test. So all the emoji were considered as one. Okay, so for the flexibility, we counted how many different categories each student used. Next, we measured the originality. And to do so, it is based on the flexibility because we measured the frequency of each category among all the students. So for example, if almost all the students used emoji in their drawings, the originality of this specific category was low. Okay, so we took each category and counted its frequency, and afterwards for each student we gave an originality score. And the last one was elaboration. And for elaboration, what we did, elaboration means to expand an existing idea, to develop or to improve it. So to measure elaboration, we took all the drawings and, for example, I will give you an example. We took all the pizza. Well, we have pizza today, so I need to talk about pizza. So we took all the drawing of pizza, and we see which one has the least details and which one are more detailed. So the one who got more detailed got a value of 6, and the one with the lowest detail got 1. Okay, so we scaled each category on a scale from 1 to 6 and gave each drawing elaboration score. Eventually, we created a total assessment for which calculate all these together. So each student perform this test, and afterwards we collect, and it's hard. I think it was the hardest part in my entire studies, because I needed to collect all the drawings and understand what people actually meant. So if one recommendation, so if you ever using the TTCT, ask students to write down what actually they meant, because sometimes it can be a bit difficult. Okay, so that's what we did for the creative thinking. Okay, we had 2 measures of creativity: the creative thinking, which we measured by pen and pencil test, and the computational creativity. And I created this, but we don't have much time, and I see that some of you are sketching, so enjoy it. And for those who are online, you can just take a screenshot or create 12 identical squares and enjoy yourself. Okay, so for computational creativity, as I mentioned, we use the log file from the Codeto platform. Because the Codeto people are very nice, they gave us all the data. Okay, we got a very large table with all the details, and as I mentioned before, each movement and action students perform within the platform was logged in the files. So we took the files and we wanted to measure the computational creativity, and for each level we compared the different solution, only the correct solution. To measure computational creativity, we need only the correct solution within the challenges. So we took all the solutions and we compared them and calculated the frequency of particular solution among all correct solution. And for example, and if you remember, we had 2 groups, 2 experimental groups. So the first one, we gave them this platform, but for the other one, after they, for example, submit the solution, we asked them, there was a pop-up that asked them specifically to try to solve this challenge once more. Okay, so this is one solution, but we can try this one, and it has slightly different, but might be also this one. And if you can see, the astronaut is here and the marker is here, and I don't know if you get it from back there, but over here, I put a solution which used a repeat, which is a kind of a loop. But the astronaut I can just direct the astronaut to go straight, turn, go straight few steps, turn, and step. And without using the more complex construct of computational thinking. Okay, they can do so, but is it considered creative? Tell me. Is it? Is it more creative to do so than that? It's a good question. Okay. I'm not going to answer it right now, but maybe other solution. Okay. What will happen if I'm the astronaut right now? Okay. And I'm just turning around and then go and do the rest of the thing. And eventually get to the marker. Is it creative? It is efficient? If you ask computer scientists and others here, and no, absolutely not. Is it creative? Yeah. Okay, it is. Do we need to consider such solutions or not? We think that yes, we need to. Students provide this kind of solutions. Should we omit them? Is it wrong? It's not wrong. It's correct. They arrive to the same place. So we wanted to measure and see the relations. And we are still this guy, told Noel at the beginning of when I just arrived. We still need to figure out what we do with such solutions. And it happens also in classes, okay? And when students get assignments, not only in experiment when we ask them to do something specific. So back to the main idea. So we measure the computational creativity by using the log files. And using the log file, we also measure the computational thinking. So using the log files, we had a lot of data about students, about the different trajectories along the learning process, which was short. It was only 90 minutes. But we were able to measure different trajectories in different moments of the learning. For the data analysis, as I mentioned, we applied different learning analytics methods. In this study, they were less sophisticated than our more advanced one. In our later research, they were more sophisticated. So basically for the data analysis, we use descriptive statistic for each variables, and then we saw the correlation between the different variables, between the computational thinking, the creative thinking, and the computational creativity. And what we found, okay? So students who were more creative in the test which I gave you, in the TCT, okay? They needed less time to solve the problems in the Coletto platform, okay? Which is good, okay? So people who are creative, I can send you the game that we gave them. So students, it took them less time to solve the problems, and less. I wrote effort. Effort I meant by less attempts. Okay, to get to the correct solution. We also found that the more creative students were in producing a solution within the Coletto platform, the more time it took them. That means that those, getting back right here, so students who turned around and did some creative stuff within the system, it took them more time. Okay, they needed to think about different ways to be creative or not. We don't think they actually said, okay, I'm going to be creative and solve this problem like that, okay? what is the balance between the efficiency, and I'm returning it back again. Okay, so but it was interesting, and we said that we must see what happened over there. We also saw that those people who were creative in the creativity test, in the TTCT, were more creative in the game. Okay, so this was one study, and you can read online more about it and ask me, of course, anytime. The second study, we did something a bit different. Okay, we understood that something happened with the creativity of students, but we wanted to see if it's actually affect how students think and how they solve problems, and specifically if their computational thinking is changing a long time. So what we did here was not 90 minutes. This study was occurred back in Israel during the pandemic, during the quarantine in Israel. It lasted 3 months. We had at the beginning, it's written here 132, but at the beginning we had the entire class. So we had 260 students, 9th grade students from school back in Israel. And the school very encouraged the students to participate in our study, but it was not obligatory. So what we did, we had a pretest and post-test and intervention for the experimental group. So students for the pretest, it was before the quarantine. So students arrived to schools, and we asked them, similarly to the previous study, we gave them the TTCT, okay, the pen and paper test, and afterwards we gave them different challenges which we created in the Codeto platform. Not exactly the same, but a slight different than the study in Spain. So we gave them that. Afterwards, they continue to study the rest of the day. It was only this session, okay, the pre-test was 90 minutes. And that's it. Back home. After a few weeks, it was quarantine, and it was supposed to be in school, and we were planned to be in school for the entire study, but things happened. So we had 10 sessions with students online. We used Zoom. So at the beginning of the day, before students were going to their classes, they met with us. All of them met with us via Zoom. And we had 10 sessions like that. Each week we had between 1 to 2 sessions, which lasted only 50 minutes. Okay, so think that in morning, I don't know if you hear podcasts or watch something or just grab a coffee. All the students came to see us, to participate in our session for only 15 minutes. What we did in those sessions, in each session, we gave the students 4 AUT tests. What is AUT? Is a test called alternative uses test, in which we give students an object, okay, and ask them to think about as many different uses that they can figure out for the same object, okay? And then we gave them 4 in a row, and they wrote all the answer in a Google Sheet, a Google form. And we collected all the data. That happened each session. So we had 10 of those. Afterwards, the quarantine is over. We got back to schools, and we performed the post-test. Okay. Important to mention, the intervention was only one group had the intervention, particularly 34 students. And then we did the post-test. Okay, what happened in the post-test? We gave the students a different version of the TTCT, okay, not circles. We gave them squares, and we gave them more advanced challenges with of the Codeto platform. But similarly to the study in Spain, over here we included the pop-up, which guide the students to provide as many solutions as they can, because we wanted to measure it. Okay, so back to the intervention, what happened, okay? So for example, we gave them a picture of book, and can you help me with that? Different uses for what you can do with the book without reading it, okay? Think about, perfect. What else? Okay, perfect. Pillow, okay. Fuel. Please explain. Okay, so I will let the kids help you. Okay, these are the things that the kids thought about when I asked them the same question. Okay, here's pillow. Okay, and confetti, and papier-mâché, and origami, and door stopper, and envelope, and weight, and shelf, and I think there was a poster, and there was also wallpaper. Actually, did create a wallpaper from dictionary, old dictionary, and picture collage and color and different ideas. Okay, so we did that. Each AUT task, we provided students 3 minutes to do so. It's not fair, I didn't give you that much time, but this is what we did, and we had 4 each session, so 40 items in total. It was short. Over time, not all the students participated as expected. Okay, there was a dropout from these sessions. The students had some excuse. No, they were late. They needed to prepare for the test and stuff like that. We knew that that's going to happen, but it was interesting to see that in action. So for the data analysis, we did different stuff there than the previous study. In this study, we also checked the correlation between the different variables, but then we also performed t-test between the experimental and the control group. We wanted to see if our intervention, which was quite short, 15 minutes, 10 times, it's manageable. A teacher can use it very easily. Also, the lecturer at the university. So we wanted to see if there was any impact on the performances of the experimental group. So we compared the 2 groups, and I can tell you that there was. The experimental group had better performances. And we also used decision tree, which is a common technique in learning analytics and machine learning and data mining. And we try to predict how students, we used an algorithm to predict how students will perform in the post-test based on the metrics that we collected from the pre-test. So we took, for example, the computational thinking variable in the pretest, how much time it took them, how many attempts, whether they use the computation, the utilization of the concept themselves. So we took those, and also the degree of fluency. Okay, how much AUT students actually performed during the intervention. So we had the pretest, the computational thinking measures, and also the intervention. And we wanted to see if there any effect on, and if we can predict the post-test. So for example, which I brought today, we can see here that we try to predict the solution originality, okay, the computational creativity, how creative students were while solving our problems in the post-test. And we try to predict and see what influenced that. And we saw two things which were very interesting. Okay, so the participatory intensity means that how many AUT students solve. So we saw that those with high technology affinity, okay, who are using computers and regular technology, which we collected by the questionnaire at the beginning, those students who had high participation intensity, low participation intensity, got very high computational creativity score. But medium participation intensity, okay, expressed by low solution originality, okay, those students. And girls who had high participation intensity, okay, they solved over than 26 AUT tasks, okay, we had 40 in total. So those who had more than 26, only girls, got very high, it's between 0 to 1. So they got 0.64 in their computational creativity score. So we saw that there is an impact of the intervention, but we have different metrics that are important to consider. The technology affinity of students and their gender. What else? So we also found, as I mentioned, we did also the t-test and the correlation. So we saw that the computation and creativity, the creativity intervention influenced both the computational thinking and the computational creativity measures. Okay, that's mean that problem-solving ability, which exemplified in the Codeto platform, can be improved using a simple intervention. Okay, that means that creativity, when we encourage students to be creative, they improve their performances and scores. In this case, their computational creativity. Also, we saw that there was, as I mentioned, those who participated in the experimental group had higher achievement. Okay, so the improvement between the pretest and the post-test, because we had pretest and post-test for both creativity and computational thinking, we saw there is a shift. Okay, students improved their skills, and of course the gender and technology affinity were a predictive factor for the improvement, and we need to consider that. Okay, we need to promote, we know that, but it's important to promote the affinity of students to technology. Not all students like technology, so we need to think about different ways that they will be more affiliated with. And we saw a negative impact, as I mentioned in the decision tree. We saw a negative impact of on CT among struggling students. So students who had lower scores in the pretest were not that successful. So we need to figure out what to do with those, and of course consider them. But one encouraging thing was that we have what we call the transfer of creativity. So those over here, same as what we found in the experiment in Spain, we saw that students who were more creative in the TTCT were more creative in the platform. So thinking creatively can be very impactful and can help students. And we see the shiftment between different things, between regular creativity to be applied in the context of computational thinking. So some recommendation we had from these experiments. So cultivating computational thinking and creativity skills is very important to be a part of the curriculum. Okay, when we encourage students, for example, to submit in a programming class, we usually want the efficient solution. But no, we need to think about different ways to do so. Maybe we should, because creativity is needed for us to solve different problems, to handle what the future holds. We need to encourage students to be creative, and we can do so in our own field. We can ask the students, for example, in programming tasks, to provide more, to think differently, to provide two solutions, not only the efficient one. It will help them be more creative and different in other sectors, to think differently. We can encourage that skill, which they can apply in other settings. Also, combining tasks to encourage creativity as an independent task, like we did in the intervention. So, for example, in my class back in Israel, I usually took a few minutes to do something else. Gave students tasks that specifically was focused on creativity. So we can do that independently, or as I mentioned, for example, in the programming class, we can incorporate them as a part of assignment. And of course, encouraging students' affinity for technology, which is actually important for all of us because we live in this era. That's it. Any questions? Thank you very much.